The NCAA Rules Committee has gotten together. They're discussing various possible changes to the game. They may want to look at targeting, would be one suggestion I would have, but they seem to be focused more on the length of games. Of course, if you play less football, there's less chance of injury, and the safety aspect is constantly being reviewed, and that's understandable. I certainly support that without altering the game too much and the nature of the game. It's a collision sport. But looking at more NFL type rules here regarding, not stopping the clock on a first down or an incomplete pass. Well, incomplete pass, I got to think that they're always going to stop the clock on an incomplete pass, but then maybe reset the play clock and run the clock once they've. Anyway, so
start on ready to play rather than on a snap of the ball.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys have any thoughts about that? Any preferences?
Oh, sign me up for less football. That's fantastic. That's just what a great idea. More commercials, same amount of commercials, less football. Genius. Genius. Yeah, if you can show me a study, I'll let Steve get in a second. Let me get my outrage out of the way. You can show me a study that play 130, 140 at the end of the game are the ones that are where the catastrophic injuries happen. I'll listen to you talk about this. But if I'm shelling out $185 out of a ticket office to go to a game, don't speed up the damn game. I don't care. I don't care. Do something about the commercials. I know we're not going to be able to take commercials really out of the game, but maybe take one spot out per break or something, because that's where the length gets away. The TV networks try to sit there and shoehorn these games in as small of a window as possible, and you get overlap there. But don't come to me and say we're doing this for player safety. That's a load of malarkey.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm curious about if they're trying to get this, like the NFL games most usually fit into that neat and tidy 3-hour window. It's crazy. You'll look up at the 2-minute warning and it'll be 10 till 4. It's like clockwork. They just find a way to get it done in 3 hours. And they have a 12-minute halftime, so they don't need a 20-minute halftime. And even Ohio State, with a great band, their band doesn't play for the full 20 minutes. I think you could shave, cut it down to 14 minutes or, 12 minutes, something like that. I don't know, 12's awful quick. Those NFL halftimes in some of those stadiums, it looks like the guys head off and get no sooner a chance to go in and use the bathroom. It's time to kick off the second half. So I think 12's pretty quick, but maybe cut it to 15. There's 5 minutes right there that you'd save on the duration of a game. And I am just curious if this push is being put in place because these TV deals in all these conferences are about to be reworked. And I just wonder if when they're reworked, they're going to have less football and more commercials in the same 3.5-hour window is what's because they're going to have to pay, X times 2.5 for the next TV contract for all these leagues. They're going to want to make that back on the back end with more commercial inventory in each game. So, back in 2006, they tried something where when they started a new possession and he started the 25-second clock, they also started the game clock. And they did that for 1 year, and they didn't like that. For whatever reason, it took quite a few plays out of the game because, each team gets 10 or 11 possessions. That's 20 seconds. That's several minutes of time where there weren't plays being run. So, and it was also an invalid season because that's the year Ohio State lost to Florida in the national championship game, 41-14, as we'll all greatly recall. But so that year was an invalid year because they had some bullcrap timing. But they already on the first downs, you'll watch the screen to see when the referee signals it. They don't wait. Excuse me. They don't wait for the down box to get to the new spot. Not even forget about the chains. It was supposed to be stop the clock to reset the chains, is what it used to be. Well, now they don't even wait for the guy with the down marker who's going to mark the line of scrimmage to come up. They're just after 5 seconds, 6 seconds, they're winding the game clock. So you've already got that pretty much And I think that's a part of this game that if you do it in that way, where after 5, 6, 7 seconds you're winding the game clock, I'm cool with that. We've kind of merged to that at this point, so I'm cool with that. But I don't know what you can do, and targeting. We've seen all kinds of different crap that's come out of that, and people who get ejected for things that they shouldn't be ejected for, and things that happen that don't get called. So I don't know. I'm ambivalent to the whole thing.
Streamline replay if you want to speed things up.
Yeah, get a handle on that. Absolutely. Well, having worked in the department that had to interpret commercial guidelines and programming initiatives on the fly in live game situations for 19 years, yeah, these college football games going 3 hours and 45 minutes were a pain for us. And also then you're taking games and you're putting them on alternate networks that don't have as much viewership, and ESPN News is starting a game at 3 o'clock. And of course you get 3-hour broadcasting windows, and you kick off the game at 7 after. You're already behind the 8 ball. That's one of the reasons why they started to kick off these noon games at 12:01 to at least give us a running start at trying to make up that time. But yeah, it's the TV end of it has to be taken into consideration, and I'm sure it is. And that has to be an initiative for all of this to get in the spots, because the spots don't make as much money when you're running the majority of the first quarter on an alternate network and not making as much money.
Yeah.
I just don't want things going too much to the NFL. I rather than stopping the clock or not stopping the clock after you go out of bounds, I'd be okay with restarting the clock after incompletion on ready to play. Like, spot the ball, because these teams are used to running tempo and no huddle anyway. So if they want to continue, they can go ahead and do that after an incompletion and not worry about losing too much of the clock. Because you go back to that 2006 season, each team lost about 7 plays. They lost a possession, and it took 15 minutes off of the game. It also took a possession away from each team. And you look at all the numbers from the stats from that year, and they dropped, pretty drastically. And so I want as many plays as possible. And I do, the 4-hour games, whatever. I did hear on somebody called a radio show this morning and said the only people that complain about the length of college football games are TV people and the people who have to cover the games. Like, fans don't care. I don't know. Let us know in the comments if that's true or not. I'm okay with long games. Like, now, what's really bad is when you have to cover college baseball, a doubleheader, and there's a rain delay and a lightning delay and then another lightning delay. Do that for a while. You will have no problems covering, dealing with college football. But they're putting this all on the, wanting to limit player exposures, and exposure is a play that gets called back, a flag. Like, anytime there's a snap and contact, they're counting these as exposures, and they believe if they can limit a certain number, I think they're doing this so that when they ask teams to play 16 games, they can come back with all this data and say, look, it's no more exposures than you would with 14 or 15 games, and we've been okay with that. So I think there's some of that too, where they're trying to justify the amount of exposures that two teams would have to experience if they're going to make it all the way in a 12-team playoff, perhaps.
Well, hell, let's just play 9 innings of 2-point conversions and be done with it. I mean, if we're just trying to limit stuff, I mean, if we don't want to have any football left in our football, and look, I understand the game has evolved, the game has changed. We have generations of players who are messed up after playing the game, CTE, whatever. You do want to find some things that you can minimize and mitigate risks. But I still truly believe that they're packaging something completely different with these proposed changes to timing and everything else. I know that every time we sit there and we see a change in the rules in a sport, this is the final nail in the coffin, and we survive or whatever. But I just don't like this at all. And I got into it with somebody over on our Ask the Insiders board about it, and they're like, "Well, try sitting on a metal bench, on a metal bleacher for the 3.5 hours." I'm like, "Well, you should be standing. You should be standing then. I mean, shame on you."
I think if eliminate all timeouts after any type of score kickoff, like you can only have one commercial break between a score and the next possession. I don't want a score, then a commercial break, then the kickoff, then a commercial break that the NFL made famous and then has started to creep into some of what we see in college football.
Well, the issue is that you have X amount of breaks that you have to get in per quarter. And if you have a ball control offense out there and there's no stoppages, the red hat isn't going to have any time to go out there and be able to call for the commercial breaks. So if you're sitting there with 6 minutes left in the quarter and you have all of your inventory left, that's how you end up with touchdown, point after, commercial, kickoff, commercial. And I mean, again,
do you like it when they overbook planes?
I don't have any great solutions, but I worked in television for a long time, TV, sports, and it's maddening at every level.
Don't overbook commercials. Don't overbook planes. Don't overbook hotels.
But BTN is getting all of that Rotel money.